Rockets finished the season 52-30, sailing past their Vegas win total coming into the season of 43.5. I don't know that anybody saw 52 wins in a 2 seed that was clinched a week ago coming, but that's what it is. Their playoff opponent will be the winner of Memphis and Golden State. The Memphis Grizzlies will play at Golden State on Tuesday night, and the winner of that game will be the Rockets' opponent in the first round. The only thing we know about the first round of the playoffs, Seth, is that the Rockets will begin the series on Sunday. So if you're a basketball fan, it's a phenomenal weekend of basketball. The first game of each NBA playoff round, 4 games on Saturday, 4 games on Sunday. TV and time still to be determined. I would imagine opponent is a big part of that. Golden State's a huge draw on TV. I would imagine Memphis, not quite as big a draw on TV. So.
It's okay, if all you're looking for is name brand appeal and whatnot, the Rockets would play, if the Warriors win this play-in, the Rockets will play the Warriors, and then the Rockets play the winner of L.A. versus Minnesota. So potential
L.A. Lakers,
yeah. Oh yeah, not the Clippers. Yeah, the Lakers versus Minnesota. Yeah. So potential for just a couple of marquee opponents. And the thinking man in me should say, well, look, Rockets are 3-1 versus the Grizzlies, and the loss came in that stretch. They had to play 3 games in 4 days on the road or whatever it was because of a rescheduling. They've done well against the Grizzlies this year. They're 2-3 against the Warriors, and the Warriors are a different team now. Despite the fact that the Rockets throttled the Warriors and Steph Curry and Draymond Green very recently, they're a different team now with Jimmy Butler. I still want the Warriors.
Yeah, man. I felt like there was
give them to me.
Felt like there was an and yet coming after the Memphis part of that. Yeah, like I do too. This is I don't know, for me, the expectations change maybe when you're the 2 seed, and if you get knocked out in the first round, it all of a sudden becomes a disappointing season. But I'm kind of in a house money mode when it comes to who the opponent is. Like I don't think this team is going to win an NBA championship this year. I don't think that's a super bold prediction or anything like that. A chance to knock Golden State out of the playoffs, the chance for this young group of Rockets to get some measure of redemption for all those series 5-6 years ago where the Warriors were, it felt like, routinely knocking the Rockets out of the postseason. Steph and Draymond are still on this version of the Warriors. I think it would be a whole lot of fun. And, who do you think would be favored in a Rockets-Warriors series by Vegas?
That's interesting. I bet there'd be a gap between the more objective numbers, and then I think the betting public would be on the side of the Warriors.
I do too.
So that would affect the spread a little bit.
Which means they'll be the favorite. Yeah.
I think the computers might make it pretty close to a push.
Yeah. I agree with that. Probably Golden State the favorite in a series against the Rockets. I think Memphis and the Rockets. I think the Rockets would be a favorite, based solely on having the home court advantage in that series.
So it's 2 at home, 2 on the road.
Yep.
And then back in Houston for Game 5 in a 7-game series.
2-2, 1-1-1. Yep.
If you can take advantage of as much as you can with those 3 out of 5 first home games, you do have the Jimmy Butler coming back to the Houston area and playing. He'll be adamant and explain that he's from Tomball, not Houston.
Yeah.
Which always has offended me a little bit. It's not the way we operate in Houston.
No,
pretty much if you're within short range missiles distance of downtown Houston, you're from Houston.
Yes. For zoning purposes and tax purposes and whatever it may be, you can keep your own little enclaves to yourself. But when it comes to usurping sports figures, you are all annexed into Houston.
Someday we'll pretty much incorporate every damn county from here to the outer limits of San Antonio and Austin within the next few decades. Yep. So just accept it, okay?
People weighing in, Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer text line, my heart can't take losing another series to the Warriors. That's been 6 years. Come on, let's get back on the train. Let's go. Warriors will eliminate the Rockets again, all caps on the text page. Well, they haven't even. Hey, the Warriors got their own business to take care of. They might not even play the Warriors.
Yeah, Warriors suck in the play-in game.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
They've been operating on the fringe.
Yeah.
They don't know what the hell they're doing.
Got that right. Yep. Meanwhile,
the last time they were in the play-in, they didn't have Draymond because of multiple suspensions or whatever.
The Rockets. Have a 17% chance of landing in the top 4 in the lottery. The Rockets are the rare team that Has there ever been a team that has had a play-in game, like looking forward to who's going to win a play-in game to see who their opponent is, and in a few weeks looking forward to seeing where the ping pong balls land in the lottery?
Yeah, I know. It's
kind of
nice.
fun, man.
It's kind of, yeah, and it's a special little irony that it's, if you're thinking about potentially trading for Kevin Durant, the fact that the Suns completely just blew it and peed down their leg gives you a better chance of using the Suns pick that you own to trade for Kevin Durant.
The irony is delicious. Well, it's Brado on Twitter, at Brado NBA. Brad does a great job. That Suns pick is an extension of the James Harden trade because they took some of the Brooklyn draft capital and flipped it over with the Suns. So the James Harden trade, because of what the Rockets have ended up doing with some of those picks, is not going to have fully played out until 2029. Out of that trade so far, they've gotten Tari Eason from one of the Brooklyn picks, Reed Shepherd from another one of the Brooklyn picks. They've got this Phoenix pick that we're talking about right now that is, at worst case, going to be 9th in the draft. Could be a top 4 pick. And then they still have the Suns' first rounder in 27, a pick swap with the Nets in 27, and then either the Suns or Mavericks' first-round pick in 2029. All from the James.
Man, everything that's worked out from that trade still, the thing that annoyed me at the very beginning of it was how many people were just convinced that the Nets were going to be an awesome team for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it, and you're looking at the guys involved, and you're like, all right, I see 3 dudes who have all forced themselves off of and out of various situations at various times and are not looked at as guys that are there for the long haul.
Yeah.
And it's worked out very. That trade's been a masterstroke in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for this playoff round. What's the biggest development? I was thinking about this yesterday as the Rockets were getting destroyed by the Nuggets. Didn't really care. Biggest developments for the Rockets this year. I was trying to kind of stack rank them, and I think number one for me is just the development of Jalen Green. Like, statistically, Jalen Green looks like a very similar player to who he was last year. He actually averaged fewer points a game this year than he did last year. But when they signed him into that contract extension before the season, my thought was, all right, well, they signed him to an extension, so he's not getting traded during the season. You're not allowed to by rules. But I thought after the season, without any clue that the Rockets would end up being the 2 seed in the West, I still felt like Jalen Green wasn't long for this team. Like, he was a guy who could – Jalen Green always felt like me, Seth, that he was going to be a guy who would score 23 points on bad teams for the rest of his career.
Right. Well, yeah, you bring up the points scored and how it's actually a little bit less, but it's because those came in bunches against teams that weren't trying all that hard because the Rockets were awful, and it's the consistency this year that's been the huge leap forward.
He's just a better player at both ends of the floor, and especially at the offensive end of the floor, he's become so much better at looking to involve his teammates. I feel like he sees all 94 feet just way better than he did last year. So I think that, to me, and I say that's the biggest development of the regular season. Now he's going to be tested in the postseason. You know, the game slows down in the postseason, and what I mean by that is a lot more half court. So I mean, it's going to be harder to go get buckets in these games in the postseason against better teams, better defenses, things like that. So as far as rounding out to be a better regular season player, which is all we've ever seen, we've never seen Jalen Green in the postseason, so we don't know what that looks like. But I feel like for the future of the team and for the just for purposes of this season, that to me was the biggest development of the year for the Rockets.
Yeah, no, and a lot of that too is I think it comes one of those things where people argue about it for no good reason. If you always believed in Jalen Green, that's great, but you have to also concede in the fact that he did have to make those improvements. Yeah. He's a different player now. So credit him. Instead of being so eager to heap praise on yourself for saying you always believed in Jalen Green, give him credit for actually improving and becoming the guy he is now, because he needed to do that. If he had kept playing the same way he was playing last year, you wouldn't feel there wouldn't be such a near unanimous feeling about Jalen Green.
Yeah, I believe Jalen Green, and I've become a much bigger believer in Jalen Green. Now, the postseason will be, the postseason is going to play a huge part in how, not just me, but I think how a lot of people feel about Jalen Green moving forward. I think probably a very close number 2 is Thompson went from being a rookie who showed some promise to, I mean, I would say a future star. I think he's in that category already. I don't know if I've seen a player who didn't make the All-Star team get more love in the second half of the season around the NBA. And I understand my timeline is curated to feed me Rocket stuff, so there's probably some other young player on some other team that was getting a lot of love from the Zach Lowe's and the Kevin O'Connors of the world and whatnot. But Thompson, future star, future perennial defensive player of the year candidate.
No, and I think, too, there's always a lag with getting the respect for players and in terms of just cementing their reputation. And I think for the first half of this season, for the most part, by and large, people around the league weren't really giving Thompson credit because it just felt like another, like, okay, scrappy team, playing defense, nobody's taking him seriously as a team, et cetera, where now he's done it for an entire season, and he's done it under increasingly important circumstances. And, they just, his minutes per game have gone up by several minutes this calendar year as opposed to last. It's bona fide now. I think next year it'll be a more fair race.
He went from being a guy off the bench to, like a sort of a Swiss Army knife off the bench to, I forget who it was who went out with an starting line, whether it was either Tari or Jabari, one of the two. And it's probably Jabari because Jabari was a starter. And then you start realizing all of a sudden Thompson's playing 42 minutes, 41 minutes, 40 minutes. It's like, ooh, we are very different when this man is not on the floor. You kind of stumbled into it because of injuries. But the flip side to that is you are a deep basketball team. And I know one of the things I was saying at the beginning of the year, Seth, when they got off to a so-so start, because they had talked about their depth in the preseason. Like, boy, we have 9 or 10 guys we can trot out there. And when you get off to a bit of a slow start, it's like, all right, well, you can trot 9 or 10 guys out there. If none of them are great, then really, how deep are you? You can be deep. Any team can go trot 9 or 10 guys out there that are along the same, equal level of player. But if they're all mediocre, then you're a mediocre basketball team. They are truly a deep team. Ben, pull up J.J. Redick here if you could. Here's J.J. Redick on the depth of the Rockets.
So really specifically with Reed Sheppard and Cam Whitmore, both those guys would be rotation players on nearly every team and potential starters on a lot of teams. And those guys they're thirsty to play and they're thirsty to prove themselves. And they're both really good players. So, we didn't know which direction they were going to go. We prepped as if they were playing everyone. We even, I had a pre-coaches meeting with the scout pod leader and Bob, our defensive coordinator this morning. Finished our meeting. All those guys were out, and so we pivoted.
Yeah, okay. So he's talking about the Lakers game where they sat some guys. It's funny, that lottery pick they have from Phoenix, Seth. If I'm a player coming out in the draft, it sounds counterintuitive because, hey, I want to win. I'm a young player. I want to win. I don't know if I want to get drafted by the Rockets.
You're going to get held down there in purgatory, yeah.
Reed Sheppard's the 3rd overall pick in the draft. He only sees the floor in garbage time and in games where they're not playing guys. And when he does see the floor, he shoots 4 for 8, 6 for 10 from 3. Like, I totally agree with what J.J. Redick is saying. That would be fascinating. Reed Sheppard, I'll put Reed Sheppard aside because he's just a rookie. Cam Whitmore is 2 years in, and when he does get on the floor, there is an element to Cam Whitmore, a little like I described Jalen Green. Like, all right, if I plunk Cam Whitmore down on one of these lottery teams, he'd probably go get you 19 points a night.
Cam Whitmore has played well enough, and that in watching how this team has developed, I've kind of softened on Cam Whitmore's disgruntment.
I have too.
I wish he would handle it differently.
Yes.
And yet,
I get it.
I'd like, hey, keep it in house. No. Don't just be a good soldier. Let your agent take care of the dirty work. And yet, I understand Cam Whitmore's frustration to a certain degree.
Him being drafted by the Rockets could be costing him millions of dollars.
Yes, so the way they operate with contracts now.
Yeah.
It does. It has a little bit of a feel of the Astros back when guys there was no place for some of the guys down in AAA and AA. These guys are in, and I don't know, what do we do with them? There's no room for them.
Free Cam Whitmore.
There is the depth and the breadth of the Rockets depth chart right now is encouraging also because of Udoka. And I think when it comes to the playoffs, where rotations matter so much and everything becomes outsized in terms of the impact you can have with the right personnel selections, that for some of their weaknesses and their poor shooting, they do have guys who can score across the board in various different ways. So the chess match between Udoka and other coaches is going to be fascinating.
Yeah,
and like that J.J. Redick dynamic that he just talked about is, okay, exactly how do you prepare for these guys? We're not terrified of any specific sniper, and yet any of these guys can really do some damage to us on any given night.
Yeah, Udoka should be an advantage in some of these series, man. For sure. You're playing the same team for 7 games. You know, it's a real chess match.